can't believe I forgot all about this. My very first day with Team Galati on the 125-foot Hargrave motor yacht. Man, it was epic. Okay, so I flew in. We're going to show you. I flew in, got in. The boat was located in Sarasota, Florida at Marina Jacks Marina. Shout out to Marina Jacks, top-notch first-class facility. Highly recommend it. Staff is excellent. They really take care of you there. It's a beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Anybody hasn't ever been, it's absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. And I can tell you, it's one of the most beautiful spots I've ever been to in the entire world of traveling that I've done. And I've been a lot of places. It's just gorgeous there. Definitely put it on your bucket list to check it out. All right, so I get in at night, boom. Team Galati's in the #1 berth right there by the bar grill restaurant, the most coveted spot, you know, well, I guess for easy access. Personally, I like to be further out away from all that traffic. But my very first day, wake up, we're getting ready to do a little sea trial, make a little run for the owner, check out the kinks, work out the bugs. And #1, first thing we want to do, me and the other captain on board, we have 2 captains, we're going to transfer some fuel. Make sure we got enough gas in the tank to do what we have to do. #1 rule when transferring the fuel, you always have somebody standing by monitoring the fuel transfer. No iPhone in their hand, no nothing. A radio, that's what you got in your hand, is a VHF radio that they can talk to somebody in the control room that has the shut-off switch and monitoring everything. Because this is why. If you don't set an alarm on your watch or your phone, or somehow set an alarm when you're transferring fuel, and you start doing other projects while you're transferring fuel, that is the #1 way to have a big spill. And you don't ever want to do that. You don't want the Coast Guard getting involved in your business. You definitely don't want to be polluting the waters of a beautiful harbor like Sarasota. So have somebody standing by. We broke that golden rule on day 1. As soon as I stepped on board. I personally wasn't even aware we were transferring full fuel, and as the other captain, that's a big no-no. You should be aware. You should make everybody aware on board when you're doing something that's that critical. So for all you yachties out there, I'm sure you know this, I'm sure you adhere to this, but if you're new to the industry and you just got your own boat or your own yacht and you're taking over as your own first position on board as a captain or a crew member of a yacht, when anybody mentions fuel transfer, you better know you're going to have somebody looking out, standing by, right at the controls with a radio and outside on the deck. So there are fuel vents where it'll start to burp and let you know. That's the first place it's going to go. It'll run out on the deck, but as soon as it gets on deck, it's going to run off the deck into the water and start to spread out. Coast Guard does not take kindly to polluters, especially of fuel on the water. So we had been transferring probably several hundred gallons by this point. That's been coming out of the vents. The fuel overflow vents had been coming out probably in excess of 500 gallons of diesel. Straight down the scuppers and the teak decks, straight down the side, both port and starboard side of the yacht, and straight into Marina Jack harbor and bay. It was a huge mess. And guess who gets to clean it up? That's right. The crew on board gets to clean it up. So anyway, I want to share that with you. Important note, transferring fuel, have a lookout, have some radios. You got to communicate with your crew. Everybody on board should know to avoid a catastrophe. It definitely could have been a catastrophe. Redundant systems on board is a must. Very important to have redundant systems, to have a backup to your backup. You don't want to risk just going offshore with one primary system. when something is as important as a stabilizer. And for the folks out there who don't realize how important stabilizers are to a larger vessel, it's like being on a roller coaster, and if you get any kind of seas other than flat calm, you get 1, 2, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot chops. It's like being on a roller coaster. As soon as you click those, lock them in and activate them, smooths right out. Beautiful ride. 6 foot seas, you can set your coffee on the counter and not even worry about it. Bilges. You gotta keep your bilges clean, like operating room, surgical room, table clean. Always. Engine room should be spotless. I highly recommend you paint the engine room should be painted in a bright Arctic white, so you can see every little thing, every little drip of oil, every little leak of hydraulic fluid. You want to be able to detect it immediately. And that goes for the bilges as well. You want to easily be able to inspect them to make sure they're operating properly. That's going to be your quickest or your most common failure is going to be on your bilge pumps or your floats, your alarms, your high water alarms in your bilges will probably be your biggest failure if not properly maintained. First thing, when you get up in the morning, you working on a yacht, you're going to have a list. You better make a checklist of all the things that you want to check and keep maintained as soon as you make your coffee. So first thing you do when you get up, make a cup of coffee. The second thing you want to do, check all your alarms. And I don't mean just check them on the control panel. I mean you want to check physically, eyeball, look at your alarm system, look at your high water alarms, your bilge alarms, go down there, open up the hatches, poke your head in, take a look, see what's going on. Make a list of things you need to inspect. That was one of the first things I checked. What's our level of fresh water? Especially if you have guests on board. If the owner's on board, you do not want the owner to get on board, climb into a shower, have his old white gray haired or whatever, or the owner's wife, God forbid, have her washing her hair, and when she's got it all soaked up, the water shuts off because you ran out of fresh water. So one of the first things I would do is check the fresh water level. And then start checking the high water alarms in the bilges and the sump pumps, black water, gray water, fresh water, all the water. You want to check all that. Make sure your fuel valves, and that's what we're going to talk about, is that fuel transferring station. Make sure that it's got some sort of lockout, tag out mechanism where it can't accidentally open up. Sometimes these engine rooms are pretty tight. You can see from the photos, they're pretty tight quarters, pretty tight to get around. You know, you're going to be moving around. You might inadvertently hit a switch or a lever and open something up that you didn't mean to open up. Storage. There's storage underneath the master bed. All the guest suites, there's storage. I mean ample. I'm talking about ample storage. Not just the bilge, not just below the carpet where you can pull up and there are hatches. Man, there's all kinds of storage down there, which is good. You're going to need it, you know, for seasonal stuff, winter, summer, all the stuff the owner or the guests bring on board. So there's plenty of storage underneath the beds. I just want to share that with you. Communication, satellite communication. A yacht of that size, a 125-foot yacht, leaving the dock should definitely have satellite, some sort of a SATCOM package on board. Maybe not GMDSS system. You start taking on water, you have an accident, God forbid there's a fire on board. You better bet you want to be able to communicate with the shore somehow. And I'm not just talking about your VHF radios. You know, that's line of sight, antenna to antenna, you know, a few miles. And I'm not just talking about a portable sat phone. Definitely, crew members, especially the captains or the first officers, the owner, the guests, I highly advise having a sat phone. There'll be a link below in the description of some good sat phones and communication systems, some emergency devices like e-burps to have. that automatically start a homing device, a homing signal send out to the Coast Guard if there's trouble or they're submerged. You do not want to plan a trip, for example, from Sarasota to Costa Rica to do your sport fishing at the famous Los Suenos Marina down in Costa Rica. Los Suenos, fabulous, love you guys. Best billfish, blue marlin fishing anywhere in the world. Costa Rica, Los Suenos Marina. I'm not sponsored. I would love to be sponsored by them. I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just saying it's a beautiful place. Go check it out, Los Suenos. But if you're headed down there, you better have some sort of satellite communication on board. I mean, hardwired on board the ship, not just your personal device. So if you can afford a $10 million yacht, then I hope you can afford a few $1,000 communication system. Other than that, I just think the Hargrave 125 is just a magnificent vessel. I find it to be the perfect size. If I happen to have a few $1 million I didn't know what to do with, yeah, I'd buy one. You got that right. All right, well, I think that about wraps it up. Let's kick our shoes off, come on aboard. Let's see what's going to happen next on deck with Mike Stewart.